The sociologist William Helmrich said this about the Holocaust. It is not a story of remarkable people, it is a story of just how remarkable people can be. Earlier this summer, I had the privilege of traveling to Europe. While in Europe, our class visited many of the different concentration camps from World War II, including Auschwitz. It was a very humbling experience. In this speech, I will be talking about the history of the Holocaust, including how the Nazi Party rose to power, anti-Semitism, philosophy during this time, the concentration camps, and liberation after the Holocaust. After the First World War, there was political and social chaos in Germany, which resulted in the rise of many violent and extreme political groups. Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party was one of these. His experience in the army influenced the Nazi Party to be organized in military style. He was arrested for treason in 1921. After returning to society, Hitler decided the best plan of action would be to run for election and campaign for votes. This was not very successful, but with the help of Joseph Goebbels' propaganda work, which portrayed Hitler as a man with great vision for prosperity and stability, the Nazi Party won 37% of the votes in the election of 1932. This was due to Germany's declining economy and the lack of action on the democratic government's part. The civilians of Germany wanted extreme action, and that was exactly what the Nazi Party was offering. So on January 30th of 1933, Adolf Hitler became Germany's chancellor. Soon after becoming chancellor, Adolf Hitler enacted an enabling law which allowed the Nazi Party to pass laws without the approval of Parliament. Things only got worse during Hitler's reign. By March of 1933, mobs of Nazi supporters were beginning to attack groups of Jewish people. Hitler, wanting more control, believed everything should be controlled by the state, including the attack against the Jewish population. By April of 1933, anti-Semitic laws were developed and throughout Hitler's reign were enforced. Two of the most significant laws are known as the Nuremberg Laws. These laws forbade Jews and Aryans from having any kind of intermarriage or relationship. They also took away the citizenship and legal rights from the Jewish people. Propaganda played a key role in the Nazi Party maintaining power. They were portrayed as monsters who weren't to be trusted, and many non-Jewish places began to put signs up that told the Jews they were not welcome. In 1939, German police began to gather up Jewish people and put them into makeshift ghettos. These ghettos were surrounded by wire and high walls. Everything was run by Jewish people, but being set apart from the rest of civilization, poverty and the risk of sickness skyrocketed. In 1941, Adolf Hitler put into action what is known as the final solution. This involved taking millions of Jews from their home to camps. There were several types of camps that the Germans used to place the victims of the Holocaust. The four main camp types were concentration camps, extermination camps, transit camps, and work camps. Concentration camps, such as Sachsenhausen, held people prisoner without a trial. Often the conditions were very poor, and many of them were forced to do labor and were given little to no food or water. Extermination camps, such as Auschwitz-Birkenau, were camps that did exactly what the name implies. At Auschwitz-Birkenau, there were 5 crematoriums that were used to burn those who were murdered in the gas chambers. At least 1 million Jews were murdered at Auschwitz-Birkenau, and in addition to that number, about another million of non-Jewish people were murdered there. Transit camps were the camps that imprisoned Jews before they were sent off to a concentration or extermination camp. This was where they were selected by the Jewish Council and put into trains. The trains held anywhere from 100 to 200 prisoners. And the final camp type, the work camps, were normally a sub-camp of the concentration camps. Prisoners were kept in poor conditions with the hope of death as a result. Finally, in mid-1945, the Nazi Party surrendered to the Allied forces. The largest of the camps, Auschwitz-Birkenau, was liberated on January 27th of 1945. Only about 7,500 survivors were found at Auschwitz. Even after being liberated, many survivors died shortly after due to how sick and weak their bodies were. Many Jewish people didn't have families or friends to go home to after the war, as many had been murdered in the previous years. They simply had to make a new life for themselves. Many migrated out of Germany. One survivor story that I read, Sam Pivnik, talked about how Out of his entire family that consisted of 9 people, only him and his older brother survived. Sam survived the war through a series of chance and luck. He fought in Palestine's War of Independence in 1948 after being liberated, and then settled down in London, England with his brother. He published a book in 2012 called Survivor, Auschwitz, The Death March, and My Fight for Freedom, which tells of his story. In conclusion, Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to power in 1933, established anti-Semitic policies and laws, and established several types of camps that would take the lives of 6 million people. By the end of 1945, the Nazis surrendered and ended the war, while the Jewish survivors started a new life and continued to survive.